Beyond the image of peaceful and spiritual guides, monks have played a very active and controversial role in shaping history. They engaged in fierce battles and wielded significant political power. Their influence was far more complex than you might think. Feudal Japan, known for its samurai battles, shogunate rule, and complex social structures, also had a surprising and often overlooked side: the diverse and sometimes troubling roles of monks. While monks are often seen as purely devoted to spiritual goals and selfless service, history shows a more complicated and occasionally troubling reality. This exploration looks into the lesser-known aspects of the monks' roles in feudal Japan, including their involvement in warfare, political maneuvering, corruption, sectarian disputes, and economic exploitation. The term Sohei, meaning warrior monks, highlights one of the biggest contradictions in feudal Japan's religious world. Starting in the Heian period, 794 to 1185, Sohei were Buddhist monks who not only focused on religious practices, but also participated in military activities. The most famous among them were linked to the Tendai and Shingon sects, and their fighting skills played a major role in their influence. These warrior monks were not just spiritual practitioners, but skilled fighters who were involved in regional conflicts. Their actions were driven by a mix of religious passion and political goals. Temples and monasteries often served as fortified bases, and Sohei took up arms to protect their religious and economic interests. The martial role of these monks was especially prominent during the late Heian and Kamakura periods, 1185 to 1333, times marked by intense power struggles and shifting alliances. A notable example of Sohei's military involvement was the long-running conflict between the Tendai monks of Enryaku-ji and the forces of the Ashikaga shogunate in the 15th century. Enryaku-ji, located on Mount Hiei, was not only a major religious center, but also a significant landholder. When their interests were threatened, the Sohei resisted fiercely, resulting in considerable violence. This militarization of religious institutions reflected the broader instability of the era, showcasing the paradox of monks wielding both spiritual and secular power. Their participation in battles and skirmishes often had far-reaching effects, influencing regional politics and shaping Japanese history. In feudal Japan, political maneuvering was not limited to samurai and shogunate officials. Monks also played a key role in shaping political affairs. Temples and monasteries, particularly those with large landholdings and wealth, had significant influence that could affect political decisions and policies. One clear example is the role of the monks of the Tendaishu sect during the Kamakura period. The Tendaishu monks were skilled at navigating the complex political landscape of the time. Their influence was not only for religious purposes, but also to boost their own power and wealth. By leveraging their religious authority, they could influence the selection of key political figures and sway policy decisions. Monks acted as the kingmakers and power brokers as well. For instance, the monks of the Hieizan Temple complex, a major center of the Tendai sect, were known for their involvement in choosing shoguns and other important political figures. Their ability to shape the political scene was a show of both their power and a source of conflict. The overlap of their religious duties and political goals often led to conflicts of interest, complicating the relationship between religion and politics in feudal Japan. Monasteries and individual monks accumulated significant wealth in feudal Japan. Although this wealth was meant to support religious activities, it often led to corruption and practices contrary to Buddhist teachings. Monasteries controlled large areas of land, collected taxes, and engaged in various economic activities, resulting in substantial wealth accumulation. A key example of corruption within the monastic community was the practice of temple landholding, or temple estates. Temples frequently acquired land through donations, inheritance, or conquest, leading to considerable economic power. The management of these estates often strayed from the Buddhist ideals of humility and selflessness. Monastic leaders, driven by the desire to protect and grow their wealth, sometimes engaged in corrupt activities, such as exploiting local peasants, bribery, and using their economic power to influence political decisions. The wealth amassed by some monasteries led to a disconnect between the monks and their original spiritual mission. Luxury and excess became common among certain monastic leaders, creating a stark contrast between their luxury lifestyles and the ascetic ideals of Buddhism. The pursuit of wealth and power by some monks became a source of scandal and criticism, highlighting the difficulties of maintaining ethical integrity within a powerful and economically influential institution. The variety of Buddhist sects in feudal Japan often led to intense rivalries and conflicts between monks. These disputes went beyond simple theological differences and frequently resulted in violent clashes and power struggles. Competition for religious authority, land, and political influence sometimes led to open conflict, affecting the religious and political landscape of the time. One prominent example of sectarian violence occurred between the Tendai and Shingon sects. The Tendai sect, based in the Enrakuji temple on Mount Hiei, and the Shingon sect, with its center at Mount Koya, were rivals fighting for religious and political dominance. The tensions between these sects were fueled by competing interests in land, resources, and influence over local rulers. The conflicts between the Tendai and Shingon sects often resulted in violent skirmishes and strategic maneuvers, both on the battlefield and in political arenas. Another example is the conflict between the Jodo Shinshu and Nichiren sects. The Jodo Shinshu sect, founded by Shinran, focused on chanting the name of Amida Buddha for salvation. In contrast, Nichiren Buddhism, founded by Nichiren, emphasized the Lotus Sutra as the only path to enlightenment. The differences between these sects led to violent confrontations, with monks from opposing sides engaging in acts of aggression and sabotage. The sectarian conflicts between Jodo Shinshu and Nichiren Buddhism were not just religious disputes, but were deeply linked to political and economic power struggles. These sectarian conflicts had lasting impacts on feudal Japan's social and political fabric. The violence and instability from these rivalries contributed to the broader context of unrest and power struggles, influencing the course of Japanese history. Monasteries in feudal Japan wielded considerable economic power, with many controlling vast amounts of land and resources. Monasteries ran extensive agricultural estates, and peasants working these lands faced various forms of exploitation. They were often required to give a significant portion of their crops as taxes or rents, which were then used to support the monastic institutions. The economic burden on the local population was worsened by the fact that many monasteries were exempt from certain taxes and obligations that regular landowners faced. In addition to their agricultural holdings, some monasteries were involved in trade and industry, further boosting their wealth and influence. This economic power often led to conflicts with local rulers and other landowners, as monasteries sought to expand their control over resources and markets. The economic exploitation by monasteries was driven not only by the pursuit of wealth, but also by the need to maintain and expand their influence. The accumulation of resources funded military activities, supported political allies, and enhanced the overall power of the monastic institutions. The impact of economic exploitation of the local population was significant. Peasants endured harsh conditions and heavy burdens imposed by monastic authorities. The role of monks in feudal Japan was much more complex and varied than the traditional view of them as purely spiritual guides. Their involvement in warfare, political manipulation, corruption, sectarian conflicts, and economic exploitation reveals a darker side to their influence on Japanese society. While many monks were indeed devoted to their spiritual practices and the welfare of their communities as well, understanding this complex history gives a more understanding view of the forces that faced Japanese society during this period. This was our insight into the dark side of monks in feudal Japan. Let us know in the comments below what part about the monks surprised you the most. We hope you enjoyed our video, and keep in touch to stay updated for more.